Welcome to the Details of Life with Marcus Wilson. We are now at episode 7, guys. Episode 7, and it's moving by really fast. We're getting a lot of good traction. I'm getting a lot of good reviews. I was really surprised, at the lack of views on the last episode. Not that I do this for the views. I'm going to do it whether I get 2 or 2,000 or, however many, because I love doing what I'm doing with this. But I was really surprised, and, we had a great conversation with the city treasurer, St. Louis City Treasurer, Tashara Jones. I mean, if you're from St. Louis, I really think you should listen to it. We talked about a lot of topics that would affect you and how in our community, how to get it better. But to each his own. I'm living, I'm learning, trying to figure out what the people want. And, speaking of that, I think my first episode, I kind of gave you guys a kind of synopsis, a kind of summary of who I am. But since then, we've gotten a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new listeners. So I feel maybe I should just do another quick recap of who I am and why I'm doing this and why you might want to listen, why I have any credibility to talk about any of these things. So I'm from South Bend, Indiana. End up going to play basketball on a scholarship at University of Evansville. And I had a really good career there. After college, I went overseas. I had I had some stints with some NBA Summer League teams with the Utah Jazz and the Knicks and the Bucks. Never quite stuck. So played 12 years professionally in multiple countries across Europe and South America and the Middle East. And then after that, came back to Atlanta. I bought a home there, ran a couple businesses, and then started missing basketball and was hired on the men's basketball staff at St. Louis University in 2013. We went to the NCAA tournament. I went to the NCAA tournament as a player and went as a player and as a coach, and that's just a real blessing because I know people have been coaching for 20 years. I've never been there as a player, coach, or anything, and so was fortunate enough to go there as a player and a coach. Got a win in the NCAA tournament as a coach, and then we didn't win the following year. So the nature of the game is, we got fired in 2016, and then I transitioned over to the YMCA, where I'm now executive director of the Bear YMCA in Northwest City, St. Louis. Really challenging area, but we're making a lot of strides. Going through a capital renovation right now. Raised over $2 million to be able to do that, and so really happy about some of those things. In terms of basketball, like I said, my jersey's retired at Evansville and in the Hall of Fame there. I was voted one of the top 50 players to ever play in the Missouri Valley Conference. People like Larry Bird, Hershey Hawkins, Xavier McDaniel, list goes on. So really blessed to be mentioned among people like that. And so I also do color commentating for the University of Evansville and the Missouri Valley Conference on ESPN3 and ESPN Plus as a basketball analyst. And so, I do think I have a little bit of credibility to talk basketball, credibility to talk business. And I feel like there's people out there that I know in the basketball and business world that I can bring on and share their stories and how they got to where they're at, how they were successful, and some of the, ups and downs of their stories, and let you get to know them a little bit better. So that's really what I'm doing. I think as the podcast grows, we're going to continue to start talking topics. I bring some of these people on and we're going to talk current relevant events and current topics, things like the coronavirus. I'm pointing at my shirt. This isn't the coronavirus. It's the Corona beer. But the coronavirus, we'll talk about NCAA draws and, basketball, baseball, anything, just like most podcasts, but just try to bring different people on from different backgrounds and talk about their story as well. So with that said, my next guest is my first CEO on the Details of Life. Just so happens to be the CEO of the business that I work for. He's the CEO of the Gateway Region YMCA, which is basically the St. Louis Metropolitan YMCA. Includes St. Louis all the way into southwestern Illinois, all the way out to the west St. Louis, and we have 26 Ys and one of the largest Ys in the country. And so wanted to bring a CEO on and get his perspective. He also coached basketball, and so we have a lot in common when it comes to basketball and our background with that. And I aspire to be a CEO one day, and so just wanted to bring him on and talk a little bit about his journey, getting where he's at, how he feels like the Y can impact our city here in St. Louis. A lot of other good things that we talked about, and so I think you guys should stay tuned and listen to what Mr. Tim Helm, CEO of the Gateway Region YMCA, has to say. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Details of Life. with Marcus Wilson. I'm your host, Marcus Wilson, and today we have a special guest. I need to be on my best behavior. This is my boss, but better for you guys may know as Tim Helm, CEO of the Gateway Region YMCA. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing great, Marcus. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for coming on, and I'm really excited about this because, you know, this is going to be a conversation where we just kind of talk organically because we obviously both know a lot about the why, you more so than me, but also I know that you're a sports fan and everyone knows that I have sports background. So let's kind of start there. I know when you first came here, people told me that you came from Dayton and you coached AAU. So let the people know a little bit about your background and what you coached. And
so I grew up no different than you. I grew up in Central Indiana.
Yep.
And if you grew up in Central Indiana and you're tall, you played basketball, right?
You're a Hoosier.
So you're a Hoosier, right? So I love the game. Played through high school. My limiting factor was really a lack of talent. So, I went as far as I could with that. But actually, when I started working for the Y, part of the reason I started working for the Y was just the love of kids and the love of youth sports. And so one of my first jobs in the Y was around youth sports director, running basketball leagues, soccer, day camp, that kind of stuff. Well, then I had my own kids, right? And I kind of evolved into coaching with them. And when one of my sons hit kindergarten, I did the K1 basketball league at the Y.
Yep.
I was the assistant coach. And about 3 minutes into the first practice, I thought, I will never be an assistant coach again. If I'm going to do this, I want to be in charge.
Yeah.
So, I was fortunate. I've got 3 kids that all had some athletic ability in different sports, and one that went on to play AAU. And so I had an opportunity. He got an invitation in 7th grade. Really 5th and 6th grade he played AAU, but 7th grade really where I got a little more serious.
Okay.
And there's goods and bads about AAU, which you know.
Tell me about it.
And so so part of my thing was if I'm going to let my child have that experience, I want to control that experience a little bit.
Yep.
And so coached with a friend of mine, and we were really fortunate. Had a great group of kids that we took through 7th grade all the way through the end of their high school career.
Yeah.
And then also did, because he was so involved obviously in the school program as well, got an invitation to coach at the middle school level for a couple of years while I was doing that.
This is in Indiana or in Dayton?
This is in Dayton.
Okay.
And, I kind of love that level of teaching the fundamentals of the game and kind of that younger, that kind of middle school age kid.
Yep.
I did all the way through, and we had a great experience through high school. And just loved that experience. Brought me back to a game that I loved as a kid.
Yeah.
Learned a lot. It's interesting as I look now, things that I learned through coaching that I apply to my work in the Y every day.
Exactly right.
It's developed a little bit of a philosophy of who we like to have on our team. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not overly bearing about this, but I love people on our Y team. A lot of Y people tend to have sports backgrounds.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's, I think there's some skills there that you learn is about being a part of a team, about putting others before yourself.
Yep.
I like competitive people.
Yep.
Right. In our work. And so there's really been a lot of really good mesh over the years.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Like the coaching aspect of coaching people up. And then also the next thing I want to ask you about is like when you're a coach, when you're recruiting players, some of those same philosophies goes into business. And so with that being said, with the CEO mindset, I've been around here for 4 years and saw you build up, bring in new people, talented people that have, increased the impact of the Y. What are some of the things you look for when you're recruiting / hiring for a business in terms of building up your bench strength and building the culture of the business you want?
Yeah, Marcus, it's a great question. And I would tell you it's probably when I interviewed here for the CEO job, one of the things that the selection committee asked me was, what are you best at? Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm not going to be, I remember my answer, I said, I'm not going to be falsely modest. If I wasn't pretty good at what I did, I wouldn't be here in the final 2 or 3 for the job.
Right.
But I really do think that what I do better than anything else is identify talent in people and put teams together and put people in positions to be successful.
Okay.
And so, what I'm looking for are, people committed to the work that we do. I'll go back to what I just said about AAU coaching, right? So people that are willing to put kind of the team before themselves to understand, particularly in not-for-profit work like the Y or mission work. It's a little bit of a bigger calling, where when you're working for a mission and community service versus a bottom line buck. And so you got to have people that understand that. I like people that have some level of sports in their background. A lot of cases, it's not. I don't ever rule anybody out for that.
Yeah.
But and I think that's really at the end of the day what we've done most successfully here and kind of turning this Y around. is the team that we've put together and people that are committed to the work that we do.
Yeah, again, I agree. When I'm hiring, again, like you said, I'm not eliminating anyone if they don't have this background, but sports, people in the military, and people like first responders, they all have that heart to serve, and they know how to put the team's success over their own, and that's crucial in a business. So obviously you're the CEO. I would like to be a CEO. There's a lot of people that probably want to start and lead their own business. Can you kind of explain what's the path you took in order to get here?
Yeah. So, a lot of people come into the work for the why, and they say, well, I want to work with kids, or I want to be a branch exec. And, and I kind of had that path as well. When I first started working for the Y, like I said, I did youth sports, I did day camp. And I was a 20-something kid, and I thought this is like the greatest job in the world. People are like paying me to be outside with kids and coaching and that kind of thing. Well, then I got fortunate enough to get moved from a small Y to a larger Y, kind of a similar role, and then into my first branch exec role. These were all in Cincinnati, where I started my career. And, when I got to be a branch exec, I thought, well, this is like the coolest job ever. I get to like run this operation, have these people see this impact that the Y makes every day. Had an opportunity. I wanted to get a completely different experience. I was running a kind of suburban family, predominantly white kind of YMCA. Great work, great stuff, but I wanted to get a different experience. So in '96, I made the decision to move to run a downtown Y in Dayton, Ohio. Completely different experience. Heavy adult fitness, not a lot of kids around. What I learned in hindsight, by about day 3, I'm like, I'm not sure I want to do this. This is like, I kind of got into the Y for kids. I haven't seen one in 3 days, but kind of grew that work. And I was really fortunate that the leadership team at that Y wanted to reposition that Y as a more traditional Y and not a downtown fitness center. And so I had an opportunity, opened a couple of childcare centers, started a couple of day camps, brought youth sports, did some of that stuff. Really then had an opportunity to move into a COO role, which I liked, but it wasn't, and I was good at it, but it wasn't, I knew it wasn't the end all for me kind of piece. And then kind of out of the blue, got an opportunity in 2002 to be the CEO of the Dayton Y. And then really just kind of fell into my groove, found something that I was really good at, that I enjoyed doing, that I was passionate about, that I had some skills and talents around. And what I've really discovered about myself and kind of that journey is that I have I have kind of a real passion and skill around turning operations around. I'm not a guy that wants to just go kind of manage status quo. But I like the kind of challenge of turning things around.
So this is more of a why question, but do you think that it's necessary to have that COO experience to be a CEO? Because I could see where it would help you, with strategically and all the operational side, but you clearly have the skill set of a CEO of leading a team and getting out into the community and things like that. But did you need that in order, or do you think you could do it without it?
So there's in an organization the size and breadth of the Y, right? So a CEO role in the St. Louis Y, which is a large Y, 24 branches, we have 5,000 employees, lots of big numbers, is maybe a little different role than if you're the CEO of the Edwardsville Y or the CEO of the Jefferson City Y, right? So, in those kind of roles, I don't know that it's as important, because in a lot of times in those smaller Ys, you are the CEO, you are the COO, you're the aquatic director, or you're kind of doing it all. In a bigger Y, is it necessary? I don't know if I'd say it's necessary, but the thing that it's allowed me to do with the experience was there is no area in the work that we do that I've not had my hands in at some point in my career. So to be able to walk into a front of a room full of aquatic directors, or a room full of childcare directors, or a room full of youth sports directors or membership directors, and be able to say, I've done your job. I've been there. And I think there's some credibility and value to that.
That makes sense. So with that being said, is there anybody along the way that has influenced your leadership style? I know as a coach, I stole things from other people, even the business world. I learned things from you and guys like Rob West and Dave Brown and other people all across the country. Who helped influence you and maybe even served as mentors for you?
So I was really, really fortunate. When I was looking at the opportunity to go to Dayton when I was in Cincinnati, the Dayton Y had historically had some really bad struggles. And Cincinnati at the time, still today, vibrant, exciting, really good Y. And so when I was going to Dayton, there was a number of people that kind of cautioned me, don't go there.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably not the best opportunity for you. But they had a young, dynamic CEO named Mike Parks who had just come there. And I loved Mike's vision and the opportunity to be part of the Y. But mainly what I liked about him was his honesty.
Yeah.
And when we sat down in the interview, I remember he said to me, he drew this continuum and said, think of the best Y you can think of on this end and the worst Y you can think of on this end. We're like right here. And he said, so, if you want to if you like doing fundamentals, I'll go back to coaching, right? If you like coaching fundamentals and doing basics, we're a good place for you.
Okay.
And I do like that, but I was really enthralled by the vision that he shared. And then I got an opportunity to be his COO. And what I really learned from him was a couple of things. He was, maybe still is, he's out of the Y now. He runs the Community Foundation in Dayton. Okay. That was the job he moved into when I moved into the CEO role there. He may be the best fundraiser I've ever been around, and how he engaged with people and how he worked with volunteers and board members and brought them along. An incredibly creative guy, a real partnership, collaborative model guy. Yeah. So, I learned so much. Those facilities in Dayton, if you look at them today, many of them have in one building have doctor's offices and hospital services. Three of them have community colleges where you get your associate's degree, the Y. He really helped. He helped me understand that model and led the first one, and then I had an opportunity to lead a number of them after that. But really, how he engaged with people and worked with volunteers was super eye-opening to me. Learned a ton.
So he was doing the model with bringing in medical facilities and schools back then?
Yeah. We did that. We actually opened our first one there in January of 2000.
Oh, wow. Because I know more and more Ys are trying to do that now, so he was well ahead of the game.
Yeah, we were actually one of the first Ys. In fact, when we started looking, there was only a couple that we could go look at. And then there was a period where we were the hosts. People were coming and seeing what we were doing. And it is a little more predominant today. You see more people doing it. But we were really on kind of the front edge of that.
Cool. So we've talked a lot about the Y. I'm sure there's people out there I'm sure there's a lot of Y people watching. But for those who don't know much about the Y, what would you say the Y does? And what do we pride ourselves on, especially here in the Gateway region?
Yeah, so that's a question I could talk about for about the next 3 hours, right? So I won't. But I think, at the end of the day, you look at an organization like the Y that we positively impact lives. Yeah. Right? And so you think about, we're the largest provider of swim lessons, right? And you think, and you and I know you have a passion around this. We've talked a lot around water, around safety around water, particularly for African Americans and kids of color. You look at the work that we're doing with seniors now, right? And it's physical fitness, but it's really addressing social isolation. That's what you're really addressing. And that has been a huge kind of last 10 years of my career to see that kind of boom with seniors. It's a safe place. What I like about the Y is that it's open to all. We don't turn anybody away for financial. But there is no stigmatizing factors around that. You walk into our Y and you can see bank presidents and you can see people on financial assistance working out together. That's true. And I just don't know where else in the community, in hardly any community, where you see that kind of cross section of people interacting in a really positive, great way. I
totally agree. And so to double down on some of that, we're doing the $5 swim lessons to make sure they're affordable. I have a lot of seniors at my Y, and there's people that have been coming there for 20 years because they lost their spouse 20 years ago, and we are their family. Yeah. And so there's a lot of things where I get a lot of satisfaction out of that, knowing that, like you said, we're bringing people together. And with so much division happening in this country, you're right. I don't know of too many other places, if any other place, where you can bring in this many amount of people and sit down and be together in fellowship. So that's awesome. How do you see the Y and your leadership impacting this community? St. Louis has a lot of issues, and the Y wears a lot of hats. But how do you see us impacting? You kind of probably touched on it just there a little bit, but
a little bit, yeah. But so Marcus, I've had the good fortune of working in 3 or 4 different cities for the Y, and I grew up in the Y. I was a Y kid. My dad was involved as a volunteer. I don't know that I've ever lived in a community where I see the work of the Y as important as it is here.
Yeah.
As you look at the challenges this community has, as you look at the racial issues that this community has, I stunned when I first got here. Some of the community challenges, right?
Me too.
And but again, the opportunity to bring people together. But I look, when I first got here, my second or third week on the job was all the issues up in Ferguson.
Yep.
And I had been in a community for so long, smaller community, knew everybody, that if there was an issue in the community, I often got the call, how can the Y help?
Yeah.
Right, and be a part of this. And I just kind of blindly assumed that would happen, that this Y had that reputation. And then we went like, no one ever called.
Yeah.
And so, I had some opportunity with some volunteers to get in front of some people, and then we were able to put together pretty quickly some work that really addressed particularly some concerns around the summer and kids in Ferguson that summer following the disturbances. And today, we get those calls more often. Not to the point yet that I'd like to see us.
Yeah.
But, I think that this community needs the Y as much or anywhere as I've ever lived and worked.
I agree. And I think going back to about the bench strength that you've built up, I think what I've seen more leaders here do now is we always say that our doors are open for all, and our doors are open for all. But there's more and more of us in the Y that are going out in the community and establishing those relationships, which helps us get those calls. And you have people in position to be able to manage those calls and build the relationships and build it up, which has been one of the reasons I'm here and one of the reasons I love what I do.
Well, you hit it. It's relationships.
Yep.
Right. And so there is an evolution as you look at the work that's happened here since the time I've got here, that we had to get our house in order.
Yeah.
When I first got here, I'll tell a story that I'm about to put on that I can't believe I'm about to tell in this format. When I first got here, we had a lot of board members that talked about the Y is more than gym and swim, the Y is more than gym. And nobody believes that more than me, and I can preach that for hours. But I finally stood about my third month, I stood in front of the board and the staff, and I said, I believe deeply the Y is more than gym and swim, but right now we suck at gym and swim. And so let's be better at that.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I'll take it back to sports, right? If you're not good at the fundamentals, right, it's the same kind of thing. Well, we worked really hard on that. We made membership kind of our focus of how we were going to engage with people. We improved our facilities. We improved our staff.
Yeah.
We brought focus around that. And that has evolved to the point now where we can be out more in the community.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the work that you do. You're great at that. And we've got more people that are able to focus on that.
Yeah.
Because your home Y is stronger.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly right. So there's been a lot of, I know of a lot of the accomplishments that you've had, like financially we're stronger, bench strength, all that. But for you, what are you most proud of during your tenure here that you've accomplished or that you've been able to implement here?
Yeah. So let me go back to Dayton for a minute, and then I'll give you one here. So when I first moved to Dayton, one of my jobs was to be in charge of membership. I was running the downtown Y. We had 3 Ys at the time. We had 2,100 families involved in membership. Not very many. Right? You think about that community. That was 1996. When I left in 2014, we had 22 or 23,000 families.
Wow. A 10-time increase.
10-time increase.
Wow.
Now, we'd also opened 5 new Ys. We'd done a merger to bring in a couple of new branches. But we really went from a non-entity in the community to a player in the community, really impacting a lot of lives. And and I had a great opportunity there as part of 5 new Y buildings. And I don't know, and I'm really struck, I don't know why this is, because I was never really an aquatic guy. Right? Yeah. That wasn't my thing. But there was something about walking into a new Y on the second day it was open and seeing the pool full of kids. Yeah. Laughing and splashing and having fun. Yep. That just was really personally rewarding. Here, I would say it's been around the culture change, right? So it just wasn't a good culture when I got here. We've worked really hard on that. That doesn't come without a lot of pain because culture is a really difficult thing to change. Yeah. But you look at where we are now, and it's really I think for me, what's most rewarding is the team we've put together. Seeing those results, and I can talk all day in terms of financials, numbers, and people served, and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, for an organization like ours, if you can put together a really strong group of people that believe in what we do, and then just get out of the way, really cool things happen. Yeah. And that's kind of where we are now.
No, again, if a lot of times when people are talking here, I can't verify what they're saying, but I can actually verify this. I've seen good people come in. I've seen the work that's being done, the culture change. You're exactly right. The other day, I just noticed how many people are excited about diversity and inclusion. How many people are excited about the swim lessons and making sure that it's equitable for all. Just so many things that I feel has improved in my short time here, and I've been here 4 years. And man, that 10-time increase. I've increased membership in my Y 3 times. And that's why he's the CEO and I'm not, because people like him do it 10 times. So what has been your biggest challenge since you've been here during your tenure?
Yeah, so I'll give you so professionally, it was really attracting good people, really, because when this Y wasn't on the radar screen for a lot of Y people as a destination that they wanted to get to, right? The city's had plenty of challenges. It's got plenty of issues. What you discover when you get here, easy to get around for big city, low cost of living, good Midwestern people, right? So attracting quality staff and building the right team is always a challenge. It was a little more challenging here. So on a professional level, we've kind of done that. On a personal level, a little bit of my personal journey. In September of 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer. Doing fine today. But that is an ongoing battle. Still dealing with some of the pretty major surgery. Took care of it. Basically cancer-free, although no one ever wants to use that term, but cancer-free today. But I underestimated. As an athlete and somebody that works out, I'm like, okay, I can address the physical challenge of this, right? And I know how to work through that. I've got a fitness background. I've coached people. I know how to do that. I think where I missed, and a lot of people don't understand when they're dealing with something like that, is the emotional toll that it takes on you. And I continue to deal with that today. And so it's kind of an ongoing struggle.
Well, thank you for your transparency and honesty on that. I'm sure there's people out there that, I think everyone that I know either has known someone who's been affected by it, either themselves or a family member. And I remember when you announced it at our all-staff meeting, there was a lot of tears, but we're so glad that you've come through. And, man, a lot of prayers for you, and it's motivating and inspiring to see you come back and still work hard and still do the things you're doing. So from a personal note, I appreciate that as well.
Well, Marcus, I appreciate that. And it is, I've done this work for 31 years now in the Y, and I have never personally felt the power of the Y movement more than when I went public with that. And it was a really difficult thing to go public with. My wife and I had been remarried 6 weeks when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I'll never forget, we sat down and her thing was, women tend to talk about this and men don't. Talk about it. And that was a really hard thing to do. But the kind of support I felt from the staff here, you don't ever stop and step back and think about how many friends and people you've impacted in your career. Till suddenly you open up your email and there's 300 emails from people all over the country saying, hey, thinking about you, praying for you. And you're right, you run into, everybody's got a journey, and everybody, a lot of people have been impacted by that, and you don't really realize that until I learned after a whole career of helping people, the value of being able, and how humbling it is to ask for help. And that's a hard thing.
No, you're right. I think a lot of athletes deal with that, and people who are givers tend to, they're used to that, and then to be able to sit back and ask for and allow people to help them. Sounds like an easy thing, but it's not always easy. And so, but no, thank you, brother, for sharing that. What's next for Tim Helm? So I know you're the CEO now. Is there anything that you have in your immediate future, or what are you thinking are your plans here in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of work to do here still, right? I've been here 5.5 years now. We're in the middle of a big capital campaign, as you know, because your Y is the first one being renovated now, which is exciting. But we're trying to raise about $55 million in the community to renovate Ys, to increase our impact, to do more work. We just went over the $21 million mark, so we've been at it for about 18 months. That's really great. Got to finish raising that money, and then more importantly, seeing the impact of those dollars. Right? Seeing those impact in branches. I'm happy career-wise. This is the last local Y that I want to run. Right? I'm at a point in my career. I'm invested here. I want to see this happen. Not out anxiously or actively looking for other opportunities. We got good things here happening.
Well, that's good to know. We got you around here for a while. So how, for the people that are interested in being a part of the capital campaign or wanting to support the Y or wanting to know more, go ahead and tell the people how they can get involved.
Yeah, so probably the best thing is to look on our website. We've got some information about the website, on the website, around the capital campaign, around our program offerings, the things that we do. Obviously, we love for people to get involved, right? Because it is a relational game and a relationship game. Always glad to speak at things, always glad to talk to people, anything, yourself as well, anything we can do to get out in the community. But probably the easiest way to kind of initial access is to look on our website.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to us today, and hopefully you enjoyed the conversation, learned a little bit more about the why. But more importantly, one of the reasons I do this podcast is because people see athletes or they see CEOs and they just hear about the decisions they make, but they very rarely get a chance to get to know them as a person. And so I know as a leader, sometimes it's lonely at the top and people will just judge you on the decisions, but hopefully you got a better chance to know a great man right here and a great leader who's leading this YMCA in this region in a great direction. Mr. Tim Helm, thank you for coming on.
Marcus, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. All right. Peace, guys. Thank you, Tim Helm, for coming on, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation, got to know a little bit more about the YMCA and a little bit more about Tim. And like I said, about what we're trying to do in the community. I say we because I'm a part of that. And so part of my closing thoughts is, and many of you know, I try to give a little commentary at the end. I'm going to keep these one brief, though. Is, just speaking about the YMCA is, I really want to encourage you guys to get out and support something. Support something bigger than yourself. And what I mean by that is I've been really frustrated lately hearing some people say, well, I take care of my kids and my family. That's all I got to do. And that is important. Take care of your kids, take care of your family, but love your kids, love your family. But who can't love their own kids and their family, right? I think what we need now as a people and as a community and as a city and as a world is to love other people's kids and love other people's families like your own, right? That's when we start making a difference. That's when bonds start being formed and divisions are decreased, right? And that's how our communities get better. And so, just get out your bubble. I think too many people have heard that phrase, I just got to take care of me and mine. And that's not what life is about, just taking care of you and yours. If you can get out and help other people. And when I say help, that might mean financial resources. That might mean time and volunteerism. That might mean knowledge. That might just be an encouraging act or encouraging words of kindness. That's where it's at. And if you haven't learned that yet, man, you really missing out on life. And that's one thing I love about working at the Y is, I don't sit here and say that the Y is the end all be all. I do think that we do a lot of great things, but there's a lot of other nonprofits and a lot of other people doing great things. And I support those people as well. But I like being a part of something that's bigger than myself. The Y was before me. It'll be after me. And all these other people, all these other businesses will be before you and after you. But when you can give yourself to a cause bigger than yourself and lose yourself in the moment, lose yourself in accomplishing something bigger than that is something that is not self-serving, man, that's where it's at. And then you're going to sleep well at night and know that you're able to plant trees under shade that you will never benefit from. That's where it's at, guys. I'm trying to tell you. And so if you haven't figured that out yet, please take my advice and give it a try and make it a habit, not just once and say, I went and volunteered last Christmas and you do it every Christmas and Easter. No, try to make it actual daily or weekly or monthly occurrence, and I promise you're going to feel better about yourself and you're going to see changes in the people around you, right? Because then you're going to feel better and then you bring a more positive energy into the room and then life just gets better. I'm trying to tell you, guys. So, man, think big, think bigger than yourself, love big. And like I said, as we always try to get better and better and better every day, one thing that you will always hear me say is greatness is in the details, guys. Man, I appreciate you guys for listening. Please tune that back in next week. Have a great week. Peace.